Pioneer viewers, how are you doing? I hope you're healthy and well. Today I will try to convey to you a very critical development regarding the Russia-Ukraine war. As we have stated many times in our previous reports, Russian armed forces personnel are struggling with many difficulties on the front line. These difficulties seem to have reached an unbearable level in many respects. In other words, it is often mentioned in the Russian sources and interviews of the Russian soldiers. As you will remember, in the past days, a very interesting development in posting of the Russian armed forces has emerged. This situation that emerged on the front line caused the proliferation of rodents in the Russian positions. Of course, these rodents also hunted the supplies of the Russian soldiers in order to survive. Therefore, the viruses carried out by the rodents passed from here to the Russian soldiers, and an epidemic emerged within the Russian army. Such problems have worn out the Russian army and the Russian soldiers. Recently, a very striking image of the Russian soldiers overwhelmed by these problems has emerged. So what are the details about this image? Let's take a look at the developments together. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so don't miss our daily map reports and reports on the agenda. I also read all your comments on our videos. Please continue to express your opinions about our content in the comments. Let's start if you are ready, the Pioneer reports. As you know, Russian armed forces have been operating on the Donetsk front line for quite some time. Let's say this about the operations here. The Russian army is making progress. Yes, this is true. However, the attacks and Russian gains here are quite costly. The main reason why the Russian armed forces can continue their attacks at the moment is that the Russian authorities think that the human resources are unlimited. But of course, this human resources is not unlimited. In the following parts of our reports, we will inform you about the developments on this issue. The lost psychology of Russian soldiers is also among the costs of the areas won by the Russian army. The psychology of war is very complex. Facing all kinds of difficulties turns regular soldiers into a very difficult human profile. Situations that would be unusual in normal life are normalized due to the war psychology. Even after the war is over, soldiers should definitely receive psychological support, because there may be situations where big problems may arise in normal life. The reflection of this situation was recently seen in a region where Russian soldiers have not yet left the front line. The images in question were recorded by unmanned aerial vehicles of the Ukrainian armed forces. According to sources sharing the video, one of the Russian soldiers in the video is a commander. He is estimated to be a sergeant. A wounded Russian soldier is seen in the video in question. The armed unmanned aerial vehicle of the Ukrainian armed forces recognized the Russian soldiers while controlling the area. The Russian commander notices the drone of the Ukrainian army. Afterwards, the Russian commander points to the wounded Russian soldier ahead. According to the allegations, the Russian commander points his soldier in the area to the Ukrainian drones and reveals his location. According to reports from local sources, this is a very common situation in recent days. Russian soldiers are making an intense effort to be destroyed and get rid of the war. It is claimed that the Russian commander showed the location of the Russian soldier for this reason. Another claim is that the Russian commander tried to save himself by showing the location of the Russian soldier. According to the allegations in question, after the Russian commander noticed the Ukrainian drone, he threw his wounded friend as bait to the drone in order to save himself. These allegations are quite frightening for Russian armed forces because the fact that the Russian soldiers create an opportunity for self-destruction or bait their own friends to be destroyed is interpreted as an indication that the Russian army is completely psychologically destroyed under combat conditions. According to many military experts, similar incidents have been frequent in the Russian armed forces in recent days. However, this is the only image that has emerged so far. Again, according to the military experts, these similar situations may occur more often. As we have often stated, the aggravation of winter conditions will further increase the wear and tears on the Russian army. The increase in this wear and tear means the emergence of very frequent problems among Russian soldiers who already have a disturbed psychology. As we mentioned in the introduction of our report, the Russian armed forces currently see human resources as their most important advantage. However, this human resource is of course not unlimited. The Russian armed forces suffer heavy losses, especially during meat attacks, and are generally unable to compensate for these losses. This is also confirmed by the Ukrainian sources. Recently, Ukrainian Ground Forces commanders Alexander Syrsky made a statement. The following statements were used in his statements. Moscow has lost more than 3,000 soldiers in the Donetsk front line area in the last week. The enemy has recently significantly increased the use of armored vehicles, kamikaze drones, and continues to conduct intense artillery fire. The reason for this is obvious. The Russian armed forces have suffered too many losses. In order to avoid these losses, they are using kamikaze drones and artillery units, but they will not succeed in this. As it can be understood from the statements of Ukrainian Land Forces Commander Alexander Syrsky, the successful defense war of the Ukrainian army has caused the Russian army to suffer heavy losses on the basis of the infantry. Therefore, the Russian army is trying to cover these losses with kamikaze drones and artillery attacks. We have stated that the Russian advance on the front line is at great cost. Every day we have more and more information on this subject. The Russian armed forces can no longer hide their losses. Even if they hide while making statements, the events on the front line reveals the facts. Unmanned aerial vehicles of the Ukrainian armed forces also do not stop for a moment. In the past days, the cheap drone of the Ukrainian armed forces carried out a very critical attack again. And it is estimated that these attacks was carried out by the Ukrainian 47th Brigade. However, this information has not yet been confirmed. It is reported that the drone of the Ukrainian armed forces hit a Russian T-90M tank. It is claimed that the tank in question was directed to the region to rescue Russian soldiers trapped on the front line. However, we have not yet been able to confirm this claim. Again, in the past days, a drone belonging to the Ukrainian army had targeted and destroyed a tank belonging to the Russian army. Such attacks increase the Ukrainian army's resilience against the attacks of the Russian army. The decrease in the firepower of the Russian army removes the pressure on the Ukrainian army to a great extent. Therefore, further increase in such attacks may relieve the Ukrainian army a little bit. What do you think? What do you think are the reasons for the Russian soldiers to use themselves as bait? Do you think similar incidents will occur more often? How do you think these events will affect the Russian army? Tell us in the comments. I read and care about all your comments.